when you ask the Miaphysite, you believe Christ is truly divine, truly human? Yes? Yes. Do you believe the divine nature fused into the human nature? No, it did not. Okay, are you listening?
Yes.
If you ask the Miaphysite, did the divine and human natures fuse into each other? No. So they never created a third nature? Exactly. So he's truly divine, truly human? Yes. Okay. So then what's the issue? The issue is, after the union, after the conception and the holy womb of the Theotokos, the divine and human natures are so inseparably united in one person that you should not speak of them as being two distinct natures that he then operates through, because he's always operating as one person with the dual nature. In other words, we don't say, oh, well, that's the God part who did this. Oh, that's the man part who did that. No, Jesus died. So you can say God died, God was born, because obviously he was truly God, truly divine, who experienced a human birth, human life, human death. So their point is that the union is so inseparable that Christ is now experiencing reality through the two natures, so that you should speak of them as one composite nature, because the incarnate Christ can never operate without both natures functioning together perfectly in one person. It comes down to terminology, because if I ask you, do you believe that too?
Yeah, I do. So I believe in kind of one perfect nature.
Not one perfect nature. No, one composite nature.
Well, one composite nature. Yeah.
Yeah, they won't say one nature, because that assumes that somehow you're denying that there are a divine and human natures perfectly and separately united in one person. And the imagery they'll give you is this. They're saying, no, there is a divine nature, there is a human nature. The divine didn't become human. Human does not become divine. They don't fuse, but we speak of them as one composite nature, in order to show that Christ, that incarnate divine person, now operates in both natures fully, completely, not in one nature one time and the other nature the other time. Because then if you take it to the conclusion, you'll end up with creating a separate person, and they want to avoid that. But now watch here. This is the text they use. Matthew 19, verse 4 to 6. And he answered and said, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh? Here. So they're no longer two, but one flesh.
Yes.
So wait, we don't say two, we say one composite nature.
Yes.
But now, no one's going to deny that Adam and Eve are not the same flesh body, the same gender, same personality. But Christ said, they're no longer two. Stop seeing them as two. See them as one. That's what they're telling you. Stop saying two natures. It's one composite nature, perfectly united in one person, who now operates in both natures perfectly, consistently, not acting in one nature one time, another nature not another time. So when he's raising the dead, obviously he raises the dead because he has the divine nature, but you still say Jesus raised the dead. Well, who is Jesus? Is he a man or is he God? No, he's both simultaneously. So it comes down to language.
Yes, I see. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, well, believe it or not, you're saying the same thing. You're just using different language to communicate that point.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Composite. One composite nature.
Yeah,
I understand. Nature. Yeah. Yeah.
So now,
I mean,
later on, I don't want to cut you off. Later on, they felt the need to affirm the distinct natures in order to show that God as God cannot die. Because if someone says, what do you mean God died? God is ever living. How can he be killed and died? Oh, well, he died in his human. That was the controversy they had to deal with and address. It's like when the Muslims tell you, how can God die? You with me there?
Yep. You're with you there, yeah. Yeah.
So then what we say, well, he died in respect to his human nature. He died as a man. Well, now aren't you now singling out one nature in which he could die? Yes. but I'm not dividing the persons. See, it comes down to basically saying the same thing.
And then just a further question on that. So that one composite nature. So they're not. I mean, so I mean, I've been kind of struggling and thinking. You know, they're not equal. I mean, one of course is a predominant. You know, the divine nature.
There is no predominance, they'll tell you, because if you're saying the divine nature is predominant, then it engulfs the human nature, so that now you're creating a third nature, right?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
No, it's the divine person who perfectly operates in two natures simultaneously, but you can't say one is dominant over the other, right? Because then you're saying the divine nature engulfs the human nature. Then if it engulfs it, then in what sense does he eat while he's on earth? In what sense did he sleep? What sense did he got tired? What sense did he die? Right? If you're saying that divine person, by virtue of being God, is sustaining his human nature, yes, you can say that.
Anyway, so
Eastern Orthodox will just anathematize the language, but if you actually ask the Eastern Orthodox, the Miaphysites, who are Oriental Orthodox, do they have the pre-Chalcedonian saints accepted by the Eastern Orthodox Church using the terminology they do? Yeah, Cyril of Alexandria and others. They use the very language of one nature, one composite nature. So this is why when there was a challenge made to Orthodox Shahada, he was challenged by Subdeacon Daniel as well as Full Armor Apologetics. Let's debate what the saints, even accepted by the Eastern Orthodox Church, right? Let's debate what Saint Cyril of Alexandria and others said, the language they used prior to Chalcedon, and let's see what the 12 anathemas of Cyril of Alexandria said. If you speak of two natures as opposed to one composite nature, Orthodox Shahada ran. You don't want to do it because he knows historically he can't refute the facts. The facts are they did speak of one composite nature. Even saints accepted by the Eastern Orthodox Church. So what do is they will ignore that and they will focus on the philosophical arguments to show why philosophically it does not make sense to speak of one composite nature. It's more preferable to speak of diophysitism. But their argument is, hold on, we want to go with what the Christians said before Chalcedon. Saints that you even accept, and they don't use your terminology. They say one composite nature, and the 12 anathemas, St. Cyril anathematizes anyone who will speak of two natures. You're stuck because he's one of your saints.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're all saying the same thing, brother. We are, believe it or not. But that's why I say, all right, that's fine. That's okay.
Just an issue, Sam. So I mean, I'd kind of go back to scripture. I'd go back, to the New Testament exegesis. looking at Paul, all the letters, all the writing. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. So you have to kind of that's it.
They all appeal to the same scriptures to come to a different conclusion. That's not going to solve it. Believe me, it's not as simple. If it was that simple, if there are just certain texts you could quote, then how do you account for the fact all of them believe scriptures, love scriptures, affirm scriptures, are willing to die for scriptures, and they quote scriptures, and yet they quote scriptures to come to different conclusions? Because scripture itself does not interpret itself. The Bible doesn't start speaking, telling you this is what it means. It needs an interpreter. So depending on the lens you use and the paradigm you use, the scriptures will say one thing to you, but another thing to someone else. So at the end of the day, my advice would be this. Let me explain to you. Why then do I have no problem with then going along with the later church and using the language of diophysitism? Like diophysitism. You know why? Because I've seen in church history an evolution that's faithful to what came in the past, doesn't diverge from it, doesn't contradict it. For example, yes, it's true that before Chalcedon, St. Cyril of Alexandria and others, outstanding saints accepted by Catholics, Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox as saints, chose to speak of one composite nature. Notice composite nature. In other words, it's not just one nature per se. It's a divine nature, human nature, but their union is so unbreakable. We view them as one, not two, just like when Jesus says, Adam and Eve, one flesh, not two. But obviously they are two.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm okay with later language, if we're saying the same thing, is because I look at the Christians prior to Nicaea, what's called the Ante-Nicene Fathers, A-N-T-E, and I look at Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, and I look at Tertullian, who's not a father, but was praised, especially his works on the Trinity, and I see the way they explain the eternal begetting of the Son. There was a two-stage begetting, the process in which they articulated the Son's begetting, that later Christians would not employ and would not articulate the beginning of the Son in that manner. But no one condemns them as heretics. For example, Justin Martyr, Tertullian, Irenaeus taught that the Son was not the Son before creation. Now, here's where it gets tricky. That person we call the Son is the wisdom of God, the word logos of God, the reason of God, who's uncreated and resides within God. But then when God went to create, he then brought forth, begot, summoned out of himself that word that resides in him, that's uncreated. And when the word came forth, however God did it, however he begot it, then the word became the Son. A lot of people don't know that's what they taught. They didn't teach the eternal beginning of the Son like other Christians during Nicaea and after Nicaea. There was a two-stage in the beginning. He goes from the reason, logos can mean reason, the wisdom, the word, residing in God. So he's not a creature. So they're Trinitarians. He's not a creature. And within God, God was reasoning with his word, reasoning within himself. And that reasoning is that fellowship he had with the logos and by extension the Spirit. And then when God creates, he then begets, summons forth the word and the Spirit. And then when they come forth from God without severing, that's the moment prior to creation, the word becomes a Son and the Spirit is spirated. Now, later Christians would not use that language when speak that way. So there was an evolution, a development that no one rejects.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know, for example, Paul says, that don't ask too many unnecessary questions. And for me, it's a question of closeness to, but again, I mean, it's not, we're all kind of close in our own individual ways, I guess. I could say my opinion, but
no, at the end of the day, we are believing and affirming the same Christ with different language. And depending on your attitude, either you're going to extend grace and mercy and say, we're saying the same thing in different ways, or you're going to be adamant, no, I don't like the way you articulate it, you're a heretic, but the same measure you use will be used against you.
Sure, absolutely.
He told me that the church decided that Mary went straight to heaven in the 1950s, something that I didn't know about. And I was just wondering how the church comes to this decision because it was almost 2,000 years later.
On drugs. He's talking about the Assumption of Mary that was made dogma, meaning official dogmatic teaching of the Catholic Church that you cannot reject. So now if your uncle knew anything about history, saying, all right, if we follow your logic, then that means then the Trinity could not have been true until a council came and then convened and then made it part of Orthodoxy to affirm the Trinity. So that means he didn't believe the Trinity existed prior to 325 AD? Or 381 AD? So your uncle is parroting Protestant talking points, not realizing there's a difference between when the church convenes and says, this is now official dogmatic teaching. But that doesn't mean it wasn't believed prior, especially when we have sources that are prior to the 20th century, affirming Mary was taken into heaven, assumed into heaven. In point of fact, you have the feast of the Dormition of the Holy Mother that go back centuries before the 20th century. Well, what is the feast of the Dormition? That's when the Lord summoned Mary into heaven. you have the Dormition celebrated by Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Assyrian Church, and the Catholic Church. And then what does he do with writings that go back all the way to the 4th century that talk about Mary like Elijah was taken into heaven? So what is he talking about?
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah. So here, what is he talking about here? Ancient witness to Mary's assumption. This is from the 4th century. So what is he talking about? He's confusing something being made dogmatic and something already believed on before it was dogmatized. It's like saying, well, prior to 325, there was no Trinity because it wasn't until the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Constantinople that the Trinity was affirmed as being orthodoxy. And that's an argument that anti-Trinitarians use. I don't know why it's not showing up.
Okay.
There you go. So what would you say to that?
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna show him your blog.
There's the article. That's free. I just sent it to you private chat.
Okay. I appreciate it, Tim.
Yeah, so say, Uncle, do some original research and don't parrot what you hear online.
Yeah, I will, because he loves to, like, throw jabs at the Catholic Church, and I mean, I'm not as educated as you, so.
Turn the tables on him. Say, hey, Uncle, can you tell me the first official list of the books of the Bible? When can you point to and where can you point to give me an official list of the books of Scripture that God inspired and preserved? Can you ask him that question?
Yeah. No, I'm gonna send him the article you sent to me, and then I'm gonna, like, also, because I showed him your channel. I sent him a couple of your videos too and all that. So
yeah, he's not going to be too happy with it. But anyway, show it to him and ask him that question. Uncle, point to me to the earliest canon list outlining the books of the Bible that now you're using to bash the Catholic Church. Because these books did not come between two covers and from heaven. These books were gathered throughout time by men that told you these are the books that God inspired, no more nor less. So can you tell me, give me the names, give me the history, give me that list? How do you know these books are the words of God?
And also, another question. So it wasn't until the 1950s then that it became like I forgot the word that you said, the dogma.
Meaning it's non-negotiable. That doesn't mean it was negotiable prior to that. It means the church decided to now make an official pronouncement. Just like when the church decided, this is what the church believes about the Godhead. Father, Son, and Spirit. That doesn't mean they didn't believe that prior. It means that they had to now make an official pronouncement in order to get the churches to realize anyone that dissents has to be thrown out of your communion.
Okay. Understood. All right. Well, that was it. I appreciate it, Sam.
Save that article and use it. God bless you.
I will. Bye-bye.
I'm a Catholic.
Man or woman?
Man.
Okay, because you must be a young boy.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
You're a young boy. How old are you?
13.
All right, young man. Go ahead. What is it?
Can you show me any biblical evidence for the filioque? I'm just wondering. Hello?
You can't use the scripture to teach the filioque, either as understood by the Orthodox or the Catholics, because the Bible doesn't address that issue.
Okay. Thank you on that.
They can't. That's filioque. These are metaphysical issues that came later in the discussion that were not addressed in the Bible.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. Bye.
So what else you have?
Well, did the Apostolic Fathers believe? Well, yeah, they did believe in the papacy, but in their letters, do they, quote what we believe as the papacy now? Or
I don't know what you're asking me. What do you mean they quote that? Do you find writings where they point to the Catholic Church as being preeminent and you cannot disagree with the Catholic Church? Yes, you find those statements. For example, Irenaeus mentions that in his letter. So yes, you'll find those statements where it says, because of the preeminence and prominence of the Catholic Church, the fact that Peter and Paul went there and appointed the bishop Linus and died as martyrs there, that this church, because of its preeminence, you must agree with it and cannot diverge from it. You find that actually in Irenaeus himself. Here it is. Irenaeus, let me find it for you. He says it. So yes, but now, obviously, if you bring in an Eastern Orthodox, he's going to tell you, well, it doesn't mean what you think it means. But I'm just letting you know that's what he says. So I know the Eastern Orthodox or Orthodox will say, well, it doesn't mean what you're implying. Well, I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying it's there. I know everyone's going to interpret it accordingly. All right?
Okay.
So, but here, I'm going to show you the statement. Just hold on. I'm going to show you the statement. So, guys, hold on. Let me show you the statement. So, Irenaeus, right here, what does he say about the Catholic Church? Right here. Since, however, it would be very tedious in such a volume as this to reckon up the successions of all the churches. I sent you the link in private, by the way. We do put to confusion all those who in whatever manner, whether by an evil, self-pleasing, by vainglory, or by blindness and perverse opinion, assemble in an unauthorized meetings, by indicating that tradition derived from the apostles of the very great, the very ancient, and universally known church, founded and organized at Rome, notice Rome, by the two most glorious apostles, Peter and Paul, as also by pointing out the faith preached to men, which comes down to our time by means of the successions of the bishops. For it is a matter of necessity that every church should agree with this church on account of its preeminent authority. Po theorim principalitatem. It's Latin.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you for showing me that.
So now, obviously, what you're going to have is Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox going to interpret this differently. That's fine. I'm just letting you know it's there. So I'm letting you guys know it's there. It's right here. Irenaeus says, you must of necessity agree with the Roman Catholic Church because of its preeminence, and you cannot disagree with it. Now, interpret it the way you want, but it's there. We have to contend with this. So however you wanted to contend, that's fine. So I gave you the article. You got it in the link? Hold on, let me send it to
yeah.
you. Yes, I did. Okay, so what else do you have, young man?
That's it. Thank you for answering that.
God bless you. I'm proud of you, young man.
God bless you too. Bye.
Pray for me.